I'll be Pat. Give me 2 seconds. I got 2 kittens in here. They're stuck at the door because they're dumb.
All right, and that's how we're starting the podcast, though.
Yeah. No, you don't come over here meowing at me. You're the one that wanted to come in here. Now you want to get out, but you don't know how to open doors.
And that's how this podcast will start.
No opposable thumbs.
So how you been, Jose?
Not too bad, man. I've had a couple of. Personally, I'm doing well, man. Things are just kind of moving forward. Just keeping on, man. How about yourself? I'm 100% in love. I know I just asked you a question and immediately cut you off, so I apologize. But yeah. I had to tell you, I absolutely love, because, likes and little hearts only go so far. But I really enjoy all the stuff you've been posting and the workout stuff. It makes me so happy every day.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
I hate it.
Sometimes you wonder why I'm doing this. Why am I posting these workouts? Why am I posting myself? Am I that vain? But really, it's just an accountability thing. I know somebody
Absolutely.
out there is, watching it and is going to wonder, at least in my mind, wonder where did Pat go if I stop posting them? And also, it kind of, you are kind of vulnerable when you do that stuff. We talked about this on the last podcast.
Yeah.
But I've actually had people be sort of helpful and kind of correct my form and make me look at it. So, I'm sort of open to that.
Totally.
Well, yeah. I was just concerned because it looked like your bench was broke. So it was like it was inverted, and I'm like, that's not right.
Yep. I clearly don't know what I'm doing on my flat bench press.
And what bothers me the most is you keep doing squats in the curl rack, and that's just bad form, man.
The curl rack. Zach, I understand you've got a story to tell.
Yeah, hey, Jose, did I ever tell you about the time I got stabbed?
No, but I am all ears.
So, I'm going to foreshadow to the end of this story because this crazy fucking guy is still out there. The guy that stabbed me is still out there. They did not catch him. All right?
Fair enough.
So he's still on the loose. So there I was.
So Jose and I are not safe.
No, you are not safe. This man still is out there at large.
Now I feel like just by knowing you've drawn me into the circle, and I don't want to be in this circle now.
Just get ready because it's gonna take some turn.
The only way out is jail or death.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if you don't die and you go to jail, I'll still get you in there too. Anyway, here I am. I'm in Virginia Beach, and I'm in the Navy, and I'm doing my old squirrely job that I used to do, and I'm sitting in a screening board where we screen applicants that want to come into our job field. And part of the screening is what's called a KIMS game, which is called a keep in mind game. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you lay out all these objects on the table, and you give them 2 minutes to look at all the objects. Then you have them turn around, face away from it, and try to repeat back as many items as they saw in as much detail as they can, and then you grade them on their ability to recall information. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I had this knife that was a double-sided knife. So it was like a dagger. They're illegal.
Not like a handle with a blade that comes out of both sides.
No, like a single blade, but it was a knife all the way down. Both sides came to a point on the end.
Understood.
So that was my knife, and that knife's illegal in this country. However, sometimes you just find a way to get stuff in. And so I'm sitting at this chair.
Is it really?
Yeah, that knife is illegal.
To have a double-bladed a blade on both sides?
Because of how long it was, yep.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
So
it's ridiculous.
I had the knife on my lower back, and that's what was my concealed carry. And I popped the knife out of my holster, and I yank it out, and it's stuck. And I'm tugging on it to try to get it out for the KIMS game. And I tug it out, I bounce it off the chair, and stab myself right in my ass meat. So I plunge this dagger into my ass cheek about 2.5 inches. I pull it out of my ass. I set it on the table. No blood on the knife. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. Okay, that was close. Because I didn't feel anything at first. So I'm sitting there, and a few minutes go by, and all of a sudden I am in searing pain. Like I'm sweating. I'm welling up with tears, and I'm trying to talk through this, and everybody's looking at me, and I'm pale. And we finish the Kim's game, and I send the applicant out of the room, and I stand up, and I take my pants off. And mind you, I'm in a professional setting. I pull my pants down, and I have stabbed through my uniform pants, through my underwear, about 2 inches into my ass meat. And I have puddled blood all over my pants, chair, and ruined my underwear. And so they go, what the hell happened? I said, I pulled my knife out and stabbed myself in the ass. So we all have a good laugh about it. And but that was all right. You know, we all had a good laugh, and there was a lot of good jokes. I was ass stabber and Captain Ass Stabs and all this fun stuff, and it was a good joke. But then I get home, and I'd forgotten about it at that point. Like, I had some pain in my butt cheek, but I was just walking around like whatever. You go on about your day. I get home, and I had forgotten about it. I get home, my wife and kids are there, and it's late at night, and I get home, my wife's in bed, and I go take my uniform top off, take my blouse off, whatever, drop trowel, and I'm facing my wife with that ass cheek. I got this huge blood stain on my ass cheek. Of course, my wife starts freaking out. What the fuck happened? Oh, my God. And I was like, oh, yeah, I stabbed my butt. And that's the time. And that guy's still out there. He's still
he's roaming.
out there.
So, yeah, Jose and I really aren't safe.
No, not at all.
And you know who else isn't safe? Me. I'm afraid. I live in constant fear of what I might do.
Yeah, I'm a little afraid of your ability to safely handle weaponry around me.
Well, you know what? You can't live forever.
And
I'm
hey,
a fervent believer in like learning from everything, and I love that you called it ass meat, because I've never been like, man, look at the ass meat on that guy, or woman, or anyone. That's why I said guy. But yeah, I like that ass meat. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
What I was doing it with this guy. His name, we call him the Ronimal. I'm not going to say his name just because he's still in the service. We call him the Ronimal. And the Ronimal has this ridiculous Southern accent. He goes, "Hey, feller, you done stabbed your booty cheeks." I could not stop laughing.
Well, you know, this is a really good segue, because I was going to ask you if, talking about safe weaponry and keeping things safe around your house, did you find a way to safely store that muzzle loader? Because I know there was some concern on Instagram about your muzzle loader being unsafely stored in your home.
So the world's dumbest gun safety organization. I paint firearms as a hobby. It's just, I'm not great at it. I just do it to do it. It's just, it brings me peace, and I get wild hair and I want to do it. Well, a muzzleloader, Jose, if you didn't know, is a modern day musket.
Okay.
So you have to add powder, which comes in the form of 2 pellets. You put a sabot in, which would be your bullet, and they seat on what's called a breech plug, which you have to screw in, and then when the breech plug is screwed in, then you can put your powder and then your sabot, and then you put a cap into the breech plug. Then you close the muzzleloader, then you cock it when it's time to fire, then you pull the trigger, and if everything's functioning properly, only then will it go off. And sometimes, even when everything is functioning properly, it doesn't go off because it's a fucking musket. And so I disassembled my firearm all the way down to its basic components, took the breech plug out and had it in 3 pieces on my table, and I painted it. It's very safe. Ask me, I don't want to say I'm a gun expert. I'm not a guru, but I'm pretty confident when I look down the barrel and it's empty, it will not shoot me because it's not attached to the hammer. So I take it apart.
You cannot be too sure. This is 2019. Guns fire themselves. Haven't you read this?
Oh, yeah. And yeah, I don't even, let's just keep my blood pressure low enough to get through the podcast. So I take it apart, I paint it, and I put some pictures up of it on Instagram, and I had them disassembled and I reassembled it, but I kept the breech plug out because I was still painting it, and I don't want to ruin my breech plug. It's the most important functional piece of the firearm. And this firearm safety organization, in very large capital letters, said, "Where is the most important safety feature on your firearm?" And I was like, well, there's no safety on a muzzleloader. It's just a hammer. You just cock it and pull the trigger. And I said,
you. They got
I'm like,
you.
yeah. I was like, oh, thank you. You saved my life from my musket.
My disassembled musket that fires on its own. It's got a mind of its own.
I said, I got it disassembled. I said, I think I got her under control, but I appreciate the gesture.
But then again, they may have known about your ass meat and how how unsafe
Yeah, they
you
could've been
are
like-
with weaponry.
Yeah, we don't need Uncle Zach ass meat over here shooting himself with his unloaded muzzleloader.
Yeah.
You're known for your ass meat, so I wouldn't be surprised.
So that was a good one, man. And that's I try not to get into too many internet quarrels, and I just replied back and I was like, listen, I think I got it under control. They didn't say anything back, so I think they either believe me or they just assume that I'm dead.
I did. It was a series of H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H. H-A-H-A-H-A. And you texted me, did you see what they said? That's why I wrote H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H.
I saw it and I was like, yep, Pat got it.
Yeah, I fully understood it.
That's funny.
So, Jose, what's been up?
Honestly, not much, man. I've had a couple of, which I don't want to make this about myself, but generally, I've just been keeping it up. Like, I'm still like working out every day. I'm always making sure I'm doing something, and I had some pretty cool personal milestones. As of this morning, I am at the lowest recorded weight of my adult life that I have known before. So I'm right at the cusp of the lowest weight that I know, which is 279. And I think when we talked, I was right around 307. So withering away.
Very nice.
Yeah. So which is pretty exciting.
That is.
And and it's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird thought to like wrap my head around, but I also had a bunch of blood work done, and I had posted about this. And it's weird because this is one of the few things that I didn't share with very many people because I just didn't want to. How can I say it? I was diagnosed with diabetes maybe a year ago, and it's the one thing that I didn't really share with anybody because I didn't want people to start doing that whole like, oh, should you be eating that thing? Like everyone knows better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't want to deal with it, so I always kept it to myself. But my A1C was at an 11.4, which apparently is, maybe you should be dead because I think the scale only goes to 12. So I was at an 11.4, which is considered, again, you should be dead. And then just to working out, eating real food, just kind of keeping an eye on what I'm doing, being active. I just had some blood work done on Monday, had my appointment, and it was my A1C, like my hemoglobin count was at 6.4.
There you go.
Which is considered at risk for diabetes, which is kind of cool. So it's really weird to kind of like just hear that and be like, oh, so I'm not diabetic? They're like, well, technically, no, but you're at risk, so keep doing what you're doing so you can kind of keep going down.
So are you insulin dependent?
I am not.
Okay.
So I never had to take, I never got to a point where I was taking insulin. I was taking a little bit of medication. My doctor was like, look, if we can meet in 3 months and if you're like still trending this way, like we should take you off of it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, man, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, thanks. It's weird because people have said congrats and I'm just kind of like, I don't know. It was simple, not easy. Again, like it was as simple as eating real food and just being more active. So it's one of those things again where I'm like, I'm just a normal dude, man. Like if I can do this, I'm sure anyone else can do it. But so it's funny to say like, oh, not too much is up, nothing's changed, but like I've hit some pretty big milestones. So
absolutely. Now you were telling us last time if it had a face or if it grows in the ground, that's kind of what your diet is, right?
Yep.
And so do you lower your carbohydrate intake as well, or do you pay attention to your macros too?
Yeah, I try to keep an eye on my macros, and really, like, all of my carbs are pretty much coming from vegetables.
Okay, awesome.
So I pretty much haven't. It's been interesting as well. It's just kind of been kind of a mindset change where there's been a couple days where I'm like, oh, I'll just have like my mom sent me like some empanadas that she made. She like froze them and sent them like, across the country, which are great, but it's literally just dough and sugar paste in the middle. So I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna have like a bite or I'm gonna have half, and I was like, cool, like that's it. Like I just wanted to taste it, it was good, as opposed to being like, well, I'm gonna smash this bag. So it's been interesting to just kind of make those small changes, but I don't feel like I've I don't feel like I've neglected myself from anything. And I also just started telling myself like I don't eat that instead of I can't eat that, because it kind of gives me the power instead of the food.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I don't eat that. Like when people say I don't drink, they don't say I can't drink. They're like, I don't drink because I don't want to. I'm like, yeah, I don't eat that. So yeah. Mainly just vegetables.
People love to ask, they ask me like that at the fire station all the time. They're like, can you have this? Can you have that? I said, I'm a grown-ass man. I can have anything I want. I choose not to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I can eat a whole sleeve of cookies if I want. I just choose not to. It's not in my best interest.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really funny, though. There's some people who pay attention to health and wellness and all this kind of stuff, typically have a pretty good idea about what our food is made up of as far as macros go. But the rest of the world doesn't really have a concept of what the difference between a protein and a carbohydrate and a fat really is. And it's really interesting even to run into that in my own profession, because I know some medics and some people who call themselves medics, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm trying to stay low carb. They're like, okay, can you have bread? I'm like, well, no. And this kid, what was it? I was doing keto for a while. I did keto until I got down to the ideal weight that I wanted. Now I just stay low carb. But I don't, like you said, it's become a lifestyle. I don't feel like I'm holding back from anything. It's just I don't eat those certain foods. But I remember around this guy, and he was like, listen, I know you're on a diet, but can you have M&Ms? I'm like, dude, what does M&Ms have in it? I don't know, chocolate. Okay, yeah. What does chocolate have in it? Sugar. I'm not doing sugar, you idiot.
That's funny.
That's a medic.
Yeah, but
that's a medic.
Chocolate. Yeah.
So 2 notes, Jose. One is that should be the proof should be in your pudding right there, dude. Of the results in your medical tests and saying that you're crushing. That should be enough.
And his sugar-free, non-fat pudding. Low carb. Keto
low carb
pudding. The proof is in his ketogenic pudding.
So the other thing, too, is as far as the empanadas go, give your mom my address. And then, Pat, I don't know much about, keto osteoporosis, but I hear it gives you bad bones, and I don't want that.
So you already have bad bones. Maybe you already have the keto osteoporosis. I probably
already do.
That's what you already have. You should check your diet. Make sure that that's not what's causing all your back problems.
Yeah, that's fair.
My mom lives right on the border. We grew up in a little city called Yuma. It's right on the border of California, Arizona, and Mexico. So one border from Mexico is maybe a 8-minute drive, and another state in Mexico is about 20 minutes. So really close to the border. So sometimes she'll just be like, hey, I'm going to be visiting family. Do you want anything? And I'm like, oh, for sure. Send me some 800 milligram ibuprofen, just in case I need it. Because apparently here in the States, it's only prescription. So, really hard. And I also probably shouldn't be saying that my mom sends drugs through the mail. So I'm just kidding. She doesn't do that. But she'll also just send stuff, right? Hey, if you want cereal, or here's some, specific treats from back home, whatever it happens to be. So that's me. But she's also sent stuff to other states, to Canada, to Hawaii, just friends. I'm like, hey mom, when you go to Mexico, can you grab this stuff? And I'll give her a list, and she's like, yeah, and she'll send it. So dude, send me your address, and I will hook you up with a Mexican treat box.
I love it, dude. I honestly I would love nothing more than to have a traditional Mexican meal.
Mailed to
I haven't had mailed to me. Yeah, I haven't had a legit Mexican meal since I was in San Diego, and dude, it's not the same. There's no I had it there, and nobody in the restaurant spoke English. I was the only white dude in the room, and the food was insane. And then I go to some, hole in the wall restaurant here that's, quote unquote Mexican in New York. Is just not the same.
Yeah. No. You know what my favorite low carb meal is at a Mexican restaurant? Nachos, no chips, or fajita chicken nachos, no chips. You ever do that?
No, I can't say I've done that one.
Oh, and they look at you like you have 3 heads when you say, I'd like fajita nachos, no chips. Like, you realize that the nachos are the chips. Yeah, I know, but it's absolutely delicious. It's meat and peppers and onions, smothered in nacho cheese.
And cheese, yeah.
Yeah, what more can you ask for?
Do what now?
I said, what more can you ask for?
Heck yeah.
That's delicious.
That's basically the staple of everything I eat: meat, cheese, and peppers and onions.
Yeah.
And coffee.
See, and I had a cupcake today, guys. So go ahead, just start bashing me.
Well, my wife makes wonderful baked goods that are ketogenic. She uses a lot of she actually is keto. I'm not calling myself keto at all. I was keto and I dropped weight, and I just try to I'm kind of like Jose, man. I just try to stay low carb and try to stay away from sugars. I'm the NSNG guy, just no sugars, no grains. But she's able to, man, she can whip up some stuff that you would not believe is low carb. She uses a lot of almond flour and coconut flour and things like that. And man, she is a hell of a baker.
Oh yeah, I remember being at the house and she cooked. I can't remember what she made was a baked good. I don't know if it was cookies, or what it was. I think it was cookies.
Probably was.
And yeah, I mean, it was unfair.
Yeah,
it was how do you pack that much baking talent into one woman?
She made blondies tonight that are low carb. I mean, there's like in the blondie, there's like 1 or 2 carbs in a whole blondie. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say blondie?
No.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're called Congo squares.
Oh, okay.
Heard that.
They're like, it's like a brownie that's almost got a cookie kind of look to it, and it's chocolate chip. It's just a thick cookie essentially. It's a brownie consistency. It's absolutely delicious.
Congo squares. I've never heard that.
I gotta try that out.
Yeah, we'll mail one to you, but we're gonna send it to Jose's mom first. She'll put it in the box in Mexico and then mail it back.
Perfect.
Jose, interesting fact. I actually know another Jose Garcia, and he's a retired Navy SEAL. And every time I post that, you're going to be on the podcast, I know that people know me. They're like, he's bringing Jose Garcia on the podcast, and he is one of the most wonderful people I know. One of my favorite people in the world, but he's abso-freaking-lutely insane. And the stuff that he comes up with, let's just put it, he's very political, very opinionated, and somehow he's always able to add like farm animals into his metaphors. And he'll start with one farm animal and move into another one, and you're like, he'll say things like, you can be like an ostrich and stick your head in the ground, or you can be like a giraffe, son, with high heels. And he'd be like,
I like this man. I like where his head's at.
I think I understand, but I'm not sure I follow. Yeah.
Well, that's just
I want to get him on here and Jose that's on here right now and have a Jose versus Jose, and I just want to.
Oh man,
that would be amazing. I don't know if he'd do it. I think he's skeptical of the internet. He's very paranoid. Put it that way.
That's
good.
I have to apologize to all the people expecting the other Jose. It's I'm sorry.
No, that's how I was getting us more listeners.
Sorry, guys.
That's how I was getting us more listeners. No, actually, Zach, you know Jose Garcia because you told me you took his live tissue class.
Oh shit!
Do you know what I'm talking about? I mean,
yeah, I know exactly.
We're really reaching back, and he is like.
Oh my God!
He's
I do.
Probably 270, but only like 1 ounce of that is body fat. The rest is.
That guy was fucking insane.
This is a guy who would put a 240 on the bar, 300 and the fire station, and he would put it on in the morning, and he says, every time I have to pee, I got to go lift this 10 times. Whoa. All right. Well, damn.
Dude,
good dude. One of my favorite
people. You brought
people.
like a blast from the past, dude. I'm like sweating thinking about that class.
Yeah, and we won't talk about what live tissue is on the internet because I'm pretty sure the federal government doesn't want us talking about that.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and pass on that one.
So anyways, other Jose Garcia.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. I saw you climb on a rock wall.
Yeah, man. That was like things that I attempted to do, like when I started my whole thing, and it's fun. It's difficult for sure, and I hadn't gone back, and I'd been wanting to, and I would drive by that climbing gym, and I'd be like, oh, I should go, and then again, sometimes I have to remind myself of the things that I tell other people. It's like, well, the easiest way to do something is to do it, or like if you really like something, you don't just like the idea of it. So I was like, well, I gotta go. So I started going again, and it's fun, man. It's definitely have you ever tried it at all?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's there's something about it that's just it's just enjoyable to me. I don't know what it is, because I think it's just because I'm concentrating so much I don't worry about anything else.
You're in that Chicks-Mahaley flow state.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So I really dig it, man. It's a good time.
Now, were you bouldering or were you belaying?
Bouldering, because so when I started, my first thought was like, well, one, I feel bad for the person that has to hold me up in case I fall, and two, like I probably won't find a harness big enough for me, so I'll do bouldering. That should be easier. I had no idea how difficult it was.
Yeah, you're pretty wrong about that one.
Yeah, and turns out I did have a harness, and I had this guy that was like 140 that held me up just fine because he had a lot of experience. So I enjoy climbing, with just rock climbing, belaying. But I've come to enjoy bouldering a lot more just because it's only me, and I can't rely on anyone else, and I just have to kind of figure out these problems by myself. So
now I'm ignorant.
Bouldering.
What's the difference?
So
yeah,
go ahead, Jose. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say again, I might be wrong, but from my understanding, bouldering has no harness, and it's typically like shorter, more like technical moves. And rock climbing is more traversing up higher, but you have a rope and like usually a partner.
And Pat, there's a bunch of good documentaries on Netflix, like Free Solo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to watch that.
Dude, watch it.
Yeah,
my wife caught me watching it, and she got pissed.
Because you're watching
she wanted to watch it with you?
No, because I was watching. She's like, "You're not fucking rock climbing again." And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "I got the perfect climber's body. Like, this is like, I'm meant for this." And she goes, "Zach, you're literally made of paper mache."
Speaking of which, we haven't had a podcast in a couple of weeks, and we probably should let listeners know what was going on, man. You had some setbacks physically, and we just decided to hold back. And because I told you from the beginning when we started doing this podcast, I'm not doing this without you, buddy.
Hey, I know, I appreciate it, and I want to apologize to our listeners up front for
you don't need to apologize.
Well, just as a courtesy, you know what I mean? It's we've been
Screw them. They're listening in on our conversation. It's absolutely inappropriate. We're trying to have these conversations, and there they are driving to work, and they're listening in and making judgment calls.
You bastards. No, so we went on hiatus for a bit. I had some I guess you could say major setbacks. I found out that I have ruptured my L5S1. And that's been causing me a lot of pain, and I was in the emergency room and doped up, and so I'm finally past all the pain meds and just on nerve blockers, so I'm taking no pain medication at all. Other than my nerve blocker. And then I went and saw my psych doctor. I have to see one through the VA, not because I'm a psycho, but because I have brain injuries. I got my MRI results back from my brain scans, which did not show any major scarring or bleeding. I went to see my optic nerve doctor, who has given me 3 different pair of glasses that I have to wear, one in the morning, one during the daytime, and one at night, to prevent any more damage to my optic nerves.
How does that work? I mean, what is the science behind that?
Basically, when you have a traumatic brain injury, your eyeballs let in too much light, and that's one of the key indicators of a traumatic brain injury is when they shine a light into your eyes. If it absorbs too much and doesn't react and block it out, and you get migraines, that's usually your chief indicator. I don't want to say chief indicator, but a big indicator of a traumatic brain injury. So what they do is they give you specific shaded sunglasses to be able to walk around indoors and outdoors without giving you a migraine, and it will block the light enough to allow your eyes to adjust naturally.
Now, does for some people, does that like if they have a traumatic brain injury, does that like fix itself over time, or is it permanent? Because I remember them telling me something about sensitivity to light, and I definitely had that after my truck accident, but it went away on its own.
I'm not entirely fairly certain that it is or is not fixed. I always worry about like CTE, all the stuff you hear about from like the NFL, like the I can't say chronic traumatic encephal something or other.
Encephalitis?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Brain
I worry
spine?
about that because I had 3 concussions where I lost consciousness in the span of 2 weeks, and I have never been fully okay since. So that portion of it with the glasses, I'm really grateful for because that did confirm a lot of the issues. I mean, so I went from there to my primary care doctor when I called him and said, "Hey, I've ruptured a disc in my spine." They're like, "Okay, we'll fit you in May." And I said, okay, that's kind of late. And so I called another doctor. She called my doctor and was like, "Hey, you might want to hurry." And so he called me and was like, "Hey, yeah, come on in." I go in and he was like, "Wow, you got a lot of stuff going on." And I go, "Yeah." And so he goes, "What else you got going on?" So we talked about my ruptured disc in my lower back, and then he was working his way up my upper back. And he goes, "Well, I'm guessing based on your symptoms that you have one ruptured bulging or not hemorrhage, but herniated in your T-spine, and then possibly 3 or 4 in your C-spine." So I was like, well, shit. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So so I'm in a lot of pain all the time, and the VA has been good to me, and I'm not going to bash them publicly. They've been kind and fair to me across the board. They're slow. Everybody knows that. And if you have no expectations of the VA, you're not bound to get your heart broke. So I will take what I can get because that's my only medical insurance.
Yeah. It's like going to the doctor at the post office.
Yes. Yeah. 7 to 10 business days to meet you at the door. I've been going through the VA since 2 years ago, and I just got my picture taken for my ID card on Wednesday.
Oh my gosh.
Slow. So
dang,
so
every
Jose,
time I go into the Careplex, they have to take my photo before I go anywhere. I mean, I'm like 15 feet from the door, and they're like, "Sir, we have to take your photo before you go any further."
Yeah, the VA is it's a brutal place at times, but I mean, I get it. It's the VA, dude. I mean, it's not meant to be your primary care.
And then they stick the photo of you on your shirt so that you remember what you look like, I guess, when you're walking around.
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't want you to get confused and get lost, and then, you know what I mean? Then you pee your pants. And
well, that's going to happen.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's going to happen.
In those big hospitals. I used to say I have to drop breadcrumbs to get around those places.
Oh, yeah, well, if you can't figure it out, just follow the red tape.
Haha.
So like I said, I'm taking no pain meds, and I'm just sucking it up. Doing some massage therapy, but I'm paying for that out of pocket because the VA, quote unquote, doesn't have any availability. So fortunately for me, I have a friend that is a masseuse. She does an amazing job. And every so often she will, give me one pro bono just because, and that's kind of nice. So, what else am I doing? I'm trying to get in for acupuncture, and I got to meet with a neurosurgeon sooner or later whenever the VA says to go.
Wow. Quite a list of things.
In the meantime, I've been taking it really slow. I've been hunting every day possible and shooting my bow every other day, and trying to get a doctor to be oblivious enough to sign off on my physical so I can start whitewater rafting for the season.
Jeez. What's wrong with you?
I will. So how people like you meet them and they're like, "Oh, I don't give a fuck." I'm like, I'm real hard. I don't give a fuck, and I am actually hard as fuck. So you would never know by talking to me or even by looking at me, because I'm a small guy and I'm generally aloof and goofy, and you would never know. But I've been walking around with at least one ruptured and possibly 5 for the last, I don't know how long, really. I just got to the point where I couldn't stand it anymore and I had to go do something. And I whitewater rafted all season last year with busted discs in my neck. I hunt every day, dragging deer. I work on stuff around the house, whatever, lifting weights, going to the gym, and just got to a point where something was just too much. Like I was in too much constant pain, and one more thing pushed me over the edge, and I was like, okay, I got to go to the ER. And that was the first time I've been in an emergency room in 7 years. And the first time I had taken a pain reliever that wasn't a leave in 9 years.
Yeah, and we were supposed to podcast that night and cut a show for, I guess it was last week, or was it the week before? And,
week before.
Yeah, and he said something to the effect of, I'm sorry, Pat, I'll try not to have these medical emergencies during our podcast anymore. Like,
so, yeah, I was like, well,
take care of yourself.
Well, it's just unprofessional. It's bad timing. I could have went Saturday.
Yeah. You suck it up. Either go early or suck it up.
Well, I tried to get out of there early enough to get back. It just didn't work out.
Yeah. It's all good, man.
That would have been a fun conversation because I was looped out.
And that's the same thing I told him today. I was like, dude, you're like, because I thought he was done telling me. So like we talked a little bit today via text, Zach and I, and he was telling me, kind of giving me that rundown as well. As like, hey man, how's your back feeling? Just kind of checking in. And he starts telling me, and I was like, and in my mind, I was like, oh man, that's crazy. But he kept going, and I was like, oh, like this story isn't over. It was insane. I was like, how are you walking around just doing stuff, like just living life? So hats off to you, sir. Like you're an animal.
Yeah, I told him earlier this week. He's an animal. Period. I told him earlier this week he needs to have his spine removed and replaced with something really cool, like a vacuum cleaner hose or what did I say? Retractable antenna.
Retractable antenna. Yep. I said hopefully I can get like a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot.
It's like that's very. You need an Inspector Gadget back.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, dude, that'd be cool. Like, get a helicopter come out of my back, dude. I'd be all over the place.
That reminds me.
Comes out of your ass meat.
Mm-hmm. I got the space for it now. I carved the hole, baby.
That reminds me of back in the day when I had that cat, Pogo, that big fat cat, and we had him for so long, and man, I did love that thing. But we used to talk about what we were gonna do when he passed away, if we were gonna bury it or if we were gonna cremate it or do whatever. And I said, no, I'm gonna take it to a taxidermist and have him turned into an iPod charger. And basically you got this cat and you just plug it into the wall and then you just insert and then it'll just hold the iPod.
Dude,
I'm glad I didn't do that because
a great conversation piece for a dinner party.
Because iPods are really not a thing anymore. So, but I could have had him turn in like a Bluetooth speaker or something. That'd have been cool too.
Oh, good.
But
just
you gotta put them on top of a
USB charger.
Yeah. and now you don't even have to plug your phone in to charge it. To just get it close to something. So maybe I could have done that whole wireless charging from it. Just stick it there, and you could people just put their phones next to the carcass of my cat and recharge it.
I like that. That's some dark shit, and I like that.
But yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. Totally vulnerable. When that cat died, I cried. That sucked.
Oh hell yeah, dude! Rightfully so.
And I didn't turn him into it was too expensive to turn him into an iPod charger. The least expensive thing I could do was to burn him up and then have his ashes. I didn't even get his ash. They wouldn't even give his ashes to me.
That's fucked.
Really?
That was an extra charge. I couldn't afford that. They were like, yeah, we'll take it over to this pet cemetery. I'm like, well, that sounds a good idea. Maybe he'll come back to life. Who knows?
Hey!
Yeah. So anyway.
Hey, so this'll at least I can commiserate mildly. In that a couple weeks back, my father and my stepmother put down our family dog, Cheyenne, who was a chocolate lab. She always went about $1.20. She was a brute. This dog could keep up with a 45-mile-an-hour four-wheeler. She was a beast, and it was one of my greatest childhood friends. She lived to be 13. She got to meet all of my kids. We did Christmas with them for the last 4 years. The dog was there every year. And she just got to the point where she lost all of her faculties. My dad put her down. My dad, my stepmom, and it was a sad day. And then 2 weeks later, my mom on my other side of my family had the same Shih Tzu for 13 years. They bought their dogs 2 months apart, put that dog down. So my whole fucking childhood got put down. So I didn't cry, mostly because I was. You'd have to like break me in half like Bane and Batman to get me to do that.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So, but I was fucked up about it. Like the first time I haven't been back to their house, I think, but one time since, and I have to go back there for Easter, to my dad's house, and I haven't been there since the dog's been gone. And I honestly, like, I love my dad's house. That's my home, but I don't want to fucking go.
Yeah.
So
animals definitely become members of the family. I don't have any animals anymore, and I don't want any more, but they definitely become, family members. And I guess I don't want any more because I just don't want any more family members.
That's true. Yeah, I've got enough. Bro, I've got 2 dogs, 3 cats, a rabbit, and 2 guinea pigs, and I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't want them.
I have a farm, and you have the zoo.
Yeah, dude. When I come to visit, I'm dropping off a lot of stuff, like 2 kids, at least 1 dog, and a cat.
I had about 5 pet deer for about 15 minutes this afternoon at dusk.
You know what? Hey, I was thinking about this, Patrick and Jose. You know how we talked about me coming down to deer hunt in the fall?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What we should do is me and Patrick should go halvesies and get fucking Jose out there too, and then we can all hunt together.
Sure.
I am absolutely up for it.
We can plan
Unless Jose is a little weirded out by being around strangers from the internet that, like, hey, well, let's come out with us white guys and play with some guns. Here,
yeah, this
fella.
all might just be a giant ploy. I should be a little bit more a little bit more skeptical. But in my mind, I was like, yeah, it sounds awesome. So obviously not too
Jose's
worried about it.
Be walking out to his tree stand, I'm going to be behind him yelling, "Red team go! Red team go!"
Yeah, that would be super awesome.
Well, you talked about doing your hunter safety course, and it's just like, we might as well just get together and do it. I'm going to drive down and sleep in my truck anyway, mostly because I don't think Chris will let me in the house because I won't shower or anything while I'm there because I'm a literal animal. But
oh, man. So I thought it was interesting that you mentioned that the dog stayed alive to meet all your kids. Pogo did the same thing to meet Bryce, and that was like his last thing for him to do, his last task here on Earth. Because after Bryce was here, he kind of hung out to make sure everything was okay, and then he passed away. It was very interesting.
I feel like animals have that sense of, like, they know that they got something coming up they got to be there for, and once they check that box, they're like, all right, I've done my last task. Yeah. I've made my owner happy. It's time to go.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I've gone vegan, because I just don't understand killing animals for meat.
I will straight up fight you.
I've only ever had one. We've had a lot of family pets, but there was only one that was truly like mine. And it was this cat, and his name was Juji, because he was all black. He was named after the candies Juji fruits, because my mom grew up with licorice as candy, because, it was the, late 50s.
Oh.
Yeah, and so she really likes the licorice taste. The cat was all black, so we named him Juji. I always told him, I'd be like, Juji, you're a bad motherfucker. And so he was Jugilius Aurelius Maximus. But
nice.
Well, that's very Roman. Nicely done.
Yeah, exactly. When he passed away, I remember I didn't cry, but I was legitimately bummed. Like, I went up to my boss at work and I was like, hey, I have to go home. He's like, what's wrong? I was like, my cat died. And he's like, oh, like, he understood. I didn't have to explain anything. But I remember watching him lay on this brick fence that we had around our house, and he would lay on it and wait for the pigeons to come and attack him. And he would sit there and take it for about 5 to 8 minutes until the pigeons felt safe and they'd get too low. And then he would jump up, grab one, and bite its neck and kill it. And
that's a badass cat, dude.
Exactly. So then he'd bring the pigeon back. He'd eat some of the pigeon. He'd bring it back and leave it on the doorstep. And obviously, after about 4 months, the pigeons stopped coming around. They didn't want anything to do with the cat, obviously, because they were dying. And then I get home, and there's a rooster sitting on my doorstep, my back doorstep. And I was like, oh, shit. Neighbors had chickens, and they started, coming in our yard. and Juji was not having it, and so he started killing the neighbor's chickens, which I'm like, oh shit, like we can get in trouble for this because like this is somebody's animal, like they're using this for stuff,
family
eggs
member.
and such. Well, not the rooster. Yeah, yeah. So Juji was just a better family member and was killing their family members until like he ran out of things to kill, and then he just kind of retired and hung out inside all the time. It was very strange, but I remember being super bummed about it and being like, man, like no one else is gonna like kill the like neighborhood pests.
As a brand new vegan, as of 5 minutes ago, I'm very offended by.
God.
I'm offended by animals killing other animals too, and I'm gonna put a stop to that one too.
Oh
Yeah,
Okay, so
the killing has got to stop.
So listen, you get an animal, right? And sometimes you get a good dog, and sometimes you get a bad dog. All right. So my wife bought me a basset hound as a retirement gift to keep me company. We already had a dog, but she wanted me to have a puppy, something to like keep me going and look forward to every day while I was at home by myself. And it's like a sad time. Like I went from being like, in the best shape of my life, working like a dog, to you're never gonna work again. You're done. You're either gonna do this, or you're gonna die. So she bought me a puppy. And which I thought was really kind of her. But she bought a basset hound. Okay? Basset hounds are what I would describe as dumb. And
that's very articulate.
So we didn't know much about the breed. You don't do any research. You go to the puppy store, you're like, oh my God, this puppy's cute as fuck. And so nobody said that these dogs have terrible gas. And they just lay around and fart. They fart straight puke farts, dude. So the dog is sensitive and he's got feelings. So if he like poops on the floor and you yell at him, he gets upset. Like he gets sad. So how do you discipline a dog that like will cry? And I'm like, okay, so well, the dog, they don't have control of their bladders until they're 6 months old, or 6 to 9 months old. We got him at 5 months, and so he would pee on the floor and it would be totally accidental. Like there was nothing you could do about it because he couldn't control it, and you can't get mad at him. There's nothing he could do. It's an accident. Well, he's so dumb that he would pee on the floor and then he would drink it. And so one day, and I didn't know he was doing this. So one day it was me and my baby Jake. Jake is 2. Jake is what I would describe as a mongoloid parrot, in that he is full speed, balls to the wall, but he repeats everything that I say. And so all of a sudden I hear the dog in the kitchen going, and I go into the kitchen and I forget totally that Jake is near me. And I go in the kitchen, the dog is puking into a puddle of piss. He had been drinking the piss, he puked into the piss, and then proceeded to eat the puke out of the piss and keep puking it back into it. And I am standing there, and I am dumbfounded. And what comes out of my mouth is I go, damn, that shit was wild. Little did I know, Jacob is standing behind me. Now this is going to come back, so just hold on. That night, Patrick and I talked on the phone. Patrick had a rough night, and I was going to get in the shower. I ended up talking to Pat for like an hour, and we just sorted some shit out. We talked. We had a heart-to-heart, man-to-man, and we got some shit sorted out. Everybody was feeling good. I step into the shower, and for the first time in the entirety of my life, I fell in the shower. So a conditioner bottle had fallen over in the shower, and I hit it with 1 foot, and my whole body went, and I went fucking parallel. And I tried to reach out to grab something, but I missed. So what I did was I slammed my head into the wall, and I rode the tiles down with my face.
At least they were wet.
It's not funny.
And the shower's going. But Jake is in the bathroom with me because I can't go take a shower without him, because if I do, then the fucking world ends. And so he's in the sink playing with his toothbrush, and I fall down. I slam down in the shower. I kick the shower drain. My toes are bleeding. I'm fucking hollering like, oh! And so my wife comes running up the stairs as fast as she can. She rips the shower curtain open. I'm laying there naked as a jaybird, and I'm laying there. I'm bleeding like a stuck pig. My toes are all cut up. The baby walks over to me, looks down, and goes, "Dad, did you fall in the shower?" And I go, "Yeah." The baby goes, "Damn, Daddy, that's wild." So what I'm saying is this: all family pets are not created equal.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I think this is the first Animal Mind podcast where we spent almost the entire podcast talking about animals.
Talking about animals.
Yeah.
Zach included.
So we've actually talked about the possibility of getting Bryce a therapy dog or a therapy animal, and I'm adamantly opposed to it because I just don't want any animals. I said he can have a therapy goldfish and just carry it around in a cup everywhere he goes.
I would highly encourage it. Give him a goldfish, put it in the bag, he shakes it up, you just get a new one.
He said, "Bubbles." That's his new favorite word. So, yeah.
But you know how I knew I was in rough shape physically?
How?
My doctor, when I was at the doctor's office, handed me a pamphlet and was like, "You need to get a service dog." And I was like, "Oh no." And I was like, "It's all downhill from here, boys."
Yep. I thought it'd be cool if the goldfish had like a tactical vest that you could put, morale patches on and stuff. Do not pet me, therapy goldfish, that kind of thing.
So, speaking of that, I bought my miniature schnauzer, a tactical vest with a handle on the back so I could pick him up.
Is that what that handle's for?
That's what that's for, yep. And so I bought it because I'm going to take him camping with me, and if I need to pluck him because there's a bear or something. He put it on
and throw him at the bear so the bear doesn't eat you.
Yeah, well, you got to get away.
You don't have to be the fastest. You just have to be faster.
Yeah, you don't have to be the fastest. You have to just to make sure there's no handle on your back and you're good.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
So the hardest part, though, I found about like this whole transition into being a domesticated house husband is like. is one is I'm just not cut out for it. Like I'm way too like much of a hard ass to like be in the house, and it's hard to explain, especially because we weren't downrange together. You never saw me in the Navy. You didn't see me at work, and Patrick did to some extent, but it was like I can be very intense and I can be domineering and very forward, and the hardest part is like I'm still intense about activities that don't require intensity, and my wife gets on me about it, but like I'll be doing laundry and I will see clothes that I've never seen before in my life, and actually I just start flying accusations everywhere about who the fuck has been in the house. And she'll be like, "Zach, that's your shirt, I bought it for you." I'll be like, "All right, I'll let it go this time." But then everybody's in trouble, like even the dog and the cat, like, "Don't you be buying this dog any more fucking sweatshirts, he's got fur." And so, and all the clothes are inside out. So I'm trying to do laundry. Everything's inside out. All of it. Everything's inside out. And so, you know what? I just like, all right, whatever. There's like the dreaded sock basket with 200 different socks and you got to sort them out. Nobody can do it. I'm the only person in the house with the patience to sort the sock basket out. If I don't take the time to sort out socks, fucking nobody's wearing socks. And so what I do is I just try to put on some tunes, and I just like, all right, I'm going to put in my headphones. I'm going to get through this laundry. I'm just going to mellow out. But then I make the mistake of putting on my liked playlist, and it's a hodgepodge. It could be some real soothing stuff. And all of a sudden Marilyn Manson comes on and I'm listening to Killing Strangers, and it's hardcore, and I'm folding like, Beauty and the Beast panties like a hard motherfucker and slamming them down in the laundry basket. Like, hell yeah. And my wife comes walking in the room and I'm slamming clothes in the laundry basket. And she's like, "You need to calm down."
Yeah, that's why my wife sent me back to work. Exactly why.
That's hilarious.
You've got to get out of here.
Yeah, she's like, "You got to go do something else. Like you got to," and I can't go back to work because I can't stand for very long. And so today, this is a good one for you guys. And I'm trying to find humor in my fucked upness. And
that's what we're all trying to do. That's called life.
Yep. Yep.
I'm in the mirror, and I was taking a shower, and I was shaving my face and just like cleaning up some of my hair and whatnot. And I was leaning on my left leg because if I stand on my right leg too long, I get pain. And my left leg buckled while I had my electric razor in my hand, and I clipped too much of my mustache. And so I had to cut it down real far, and I found out that right below my nose, my mustache is black, but the rest of my mustache is gray. So now it looks like I got this awesome Hitler stash, and there's nothing I can do about it. So it's been an endeavor is really what I'm getting at.
So, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, speaking of laundry, I live in a very like perpetual 3 chambers bachelor state where I have clothes in the dryer, I have clean clothes in a hamper, and I take the clothes out of the hamper as I wear it, and then when it's dirty, I throw it on the floor in my bedroom. And as the hamper gets empty, I'm like, oh, it's time for a reload. So I move the dirty clothes to the washer. And then when the clothes is done washing, I move it to the dryer. But if you remember, the dryer is full of clothes. So that clothes goes to the hamper that I never put away. And then the cycle starts all over. And so now there's fresh clothes in the dryer, fresh clothes in the hamper, and nothing on the floor because I'm not a dirty bitch. But give it a week and a half, and I am. And then it's just this cycle, and I realized it about, I don't know, like last week, 2 weeks ago. It's like, I don't have, like, my drawers are empty. And I was like, all my clothes is literally living either in the washer, in the dryer, or in this hamper. Or never in the washer, it doesn't stay there. But so I'm trying to do better about actually putting it away. So
yeah,
next time I'm putting away my like Beauty and the Beast panties, I'll think of you.
It's hot. See, I'm way too OCD for that. See, in my house, I got to make sure that I have clothes on every freaking surface of the entire house. So I've got clothes in the washer, in the dryer, on the back of the couch, on the cushions of the couch, on the backs of all the kitchen chairs, in the floor, in the hampers, and up the stairs, on every single stair, in every single room. And you know what adulthood is? It's just progressively giving up. That's all adulthood is.
Yeah, that's how it feels, man. You just like we're not doing this. 2 weeks later, you're like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, this is not how we live. This is not how we live next week. And
this is exactly how we live.
This is how we're gonna live. Okay, we're gonna fix this. We're gonna clean it all up today, and then tomorrow.
See, in our house, I'm allowed one corner of one room of our house. That's my stuff. Just my stuff.
It's all knives and guns and double-bladed swords. It's
literally all guns and knives. I don't have my computer video camera on, but if you were able to look over my right shoulder, you would see a gun cabinet, a dead deer head, about 40 turkey calls, about 200 hats, and all of my hunting equipment, backpacks, boots, bows, and everything piled into one corner. And that's I'm allowed to have my one little place of chaos. And that's like my wife surrendered that after 10 years of marriage. She's like, okay, you can have one corner. And I was like, yes.
The dead deer head. Please tell me it's taxidermy. It's not just you didn't just sever it this morning and just drag it in, did you?
Oh no, I found it in a field, and it was already like picked out. It was like bones and stuff. I just found it one day when I was out shed hunting, and I'll be honest with you, Pat, it really ties the room together.
I want to have more taxidermied animals in my house because I already live in what's almost like a cabin, but my wife doesn't want any. I really want a chupacabra.
Get one. Listen,
I have my mom send you one.
Perfect.
Absolutely. They have those in Mexico. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, everywhere.
Listen, Pat, and I'm going to tell you the best way. I'm going to give you my Zach Engelhart's hunting pro tip on how to get your wife to let you have taxidermy in your house. Are you ready?
Go.
Ask forgiveness, not permission.
Oh, I live by that. That's my living philosophy.
You know what was funny though is I shot a really nice buck this last year. And so we were supposed to go to a barbecue, and I was like, I'm going to run out real quick. I'm just going on a quick hunt. I probably won't see anything. There's 4 feet of snow. The odds of me running into a good deer, slim to none. The odds were not in my favor. Come find out, I walked right into a smasher buck, shot him, piled him up. We missed dinner. It took a couple hours to get him out of the woods. There's 4 feet of snow. I had to get a snowmobile involved. Like, it was a lot of work. And so she was like, well, screw dinner. I'll just meet you out. And I'll meet you out at it was one of my cousin's houses, and my cousin was like, dude, are you gonna get this mounted? And I was like, he's a good buck, but I'm pretty sure my wife will say no. And So she calls me on the way. She's like, "You shot a nice buck," and I was like, "Yeah, I finally got a nice one. I finally got a wall hanger." She's like, "Well, we're not getting it mounted." I was like, "Okay, well, whatever. No big deal." I said, "I'll just do a European mount. Whatever. It's just a skull mount." And she's like, "Okay, whatever." So she comes up, get the kids together, everybody take pictures and stuff. And I didn't post it on social media because it's just one of those moments that I want to have for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets there and she's like, "Oh my God, he's beautiful." And I was like, "I know. It's like I was there. Like I shot him. Like I lived it all." And she's like, "Oh man, we got to get him mounted." And I was like, "Yep." Now I was like, "We're already skinning this sumbitch. Let's go."
Nice.
So he's been at the taxidermist ever since. I'm still waiting to get him back.
Nice. Well, gentlemen, I say we go ahead and bring this episode to a close. Unless y'all have anything else you'd like to say to our listeners.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, and to you guys, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. One, to be on here, but second, like I said, Zach and I have sent a little communication back and forth. It's been kind of cool just to kind of keep that up, and every day seeing you, Pat, just kind of get after it and like making things happen. So thanks for letting me in. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, come back anytime. I have one more thing to say to our listeners. Listen here. Here's the thing. You've been listening in on our conversations. I mean, it's rude, first of all. Second of all, you're just driving around listening to this podcast and you're not buying the t-shirts. And that's it's inappropriate, really. I mean, first of all, you're listening to the conversations, not buying the t-shirts. All right, let me go down and just tell you what this podcast costs. All right, $50 a month for Liberation Syndication. That's to get it into your pod player, $50 a month. And it's, I don't know, like $50 a year to run this website. Look, just one t-shirt a month. All right? I need you to buy one t-shirt a month. Everyone who listens to buy one t-shirt a month. You want us to go on these amazing hunting trips, to go visit one another and hang out and make quality content, but you're not sending us the money. So we need the money. If you're going to rudely listen into the podcast, you got to, come on, y'all. Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
I had made my piece, but I actually had to mention one of my friends, Luis. I was, again, scrolling through Instagram, and it's like, "Hey, thanks for the t-shirt." Like, and he was talking about the podcast, and I looked and I was like, "Oh shit!" So big thanks to Luis. One of my friends had listened. I'm assuming to listen to the podcast when I was on it, and he's been listening, and he picked up a shirt. So thanks again, Luis.
Awesome.
Thanks,
awesome.
Luis.
Yeah.
Hey, and I want to I got to give a quick shout out to our number one fan because my mom bought 2 shirts as well.
Oh,
hell yeah!
Your mom doesn't live in Ghana, does she?
No, she's not in Ghana. She lives in Binghamton, New York.
Oh, I thought our number one fan lived in Ghana.
No, that's no, that was what the hell was it? Uganda.
Uganda. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Our number one fan's in Uganda. He bought a t-shirt. I know because I saw it on the website.
My man.
Probably because we gave him a hard time for being only the one fan in Uganda. Because we said, obviously, he's not talking about us enough if there's only one person listening there. So
carrying the weight. He's put his whole country on his back.
Yeah. So I guess he bought a t-shirt, and so hopefully he's wearing it, and he's trying to get the other Ugandanese, or whatever they're called, Well, I've got about 7,000 boxes of these shirts in my house, and I guess if they don't sell to people who really listen to the podcast, we could just send them to Uganda and just clothe the nation.
There we go.
And we'll write it off on our next year's taxes.
Perfect. Well, hey guys, it's been fun talking to you. I love you guys, and looking forward to talking to y'all soon.
Yeah, and all the listeners, I'm just kidding with you. We really love you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you following the Instagram and the Facebook and all that kind of stuff, and keeping up with us. And we love you. We're gonna keep doing this regardless of how much it costs. All right, you guys. See you later. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Later.